I'm Charles Harris. I am a senior here at San Francisco State, and I'm studying communications with a minor in marketing. For EXCO, I am teaching the personal branding and communications course. And this semester I have 8 students, and last semester I had 11 students. So a little bit of a fall from last semester, but with online learning and everything.
Yeah, that's great. So you've set it up for them. You've probably left them some big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
Um, how would you describe yourself as a learner, and how does that kind of inform how you see your students and how you teach your students?
So for me, I'm visual, and a lot of my other students are. That's something that I ask them in the beginning of the class. Each semester is how they learn. And a lot of them are all visual. Some are like, audio and don't really care about visual things. But for me, I think it's easier to go from A, B to C. So for me, I share my screen all the time. I always have something to show when we are online now, because it's difficult to keep them engaged if they're not, if you're just looking at all these people. So I've been keeping them engaged with visuals such as, videos, pictures, doing collaborative activities and stuff like that. I actually did the annotation thing that you did today. So I've done that with them a couple of times, and they really like that. And it's a cool way to get engaged with them. So yeah, probably all visual learners.
Yeah, amazing. I was going to ask you to describe maybe one of your lessons or a typical lesson. Do you want to describe the annotation activity that you did in your class?
Mm-hmm. So for me, what I did in my class is we were watching Being Mary Jane this time so it was on a BET news network. And then so I had I paused the screen and then went over to just like a blank white one. And then I just said, hey, what are some of the branding strategies that you've seen within these 15 minutes of this pilot episode? And so everybody would just, would draw, do this. And it was really cool to just see that live and not have to wait for a journal or a journal entry for them to submit. So their main project within the class is to have a completed LinkedIn profile and a completed kind of 30-second or to a minute pitch summary about themselves only, because that's the first thing that recruiters and everybody asked you is, tell me about yourself. So we go kind of through that in different layers. We first start looking at the history of why branding is important and the different types of cultural differences that branding has. And then that's when George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and different things like that come up. And then we start going into themselves and their childhood, the student's childhood, and why they like this and why they, don't like this. And we do vision boards to help them kind of have a map of like where they want to be. And that's kind of just their foundation of the class. So their projects are kind of just self-work. It's not really anything, tangible, but they have that option to like make a storyboard and like have their, mind map there.
You mentioned George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and kind of thinking about the social climate that's going on right now. How would you say your class is meeting that moment, and can maybe expand on how you addressed these issues in your class?
Mm-hmm. So for me, I really wanted my class has always been kind of socially justice based. I really wanted to make that clear within, my syllabus and things like that. But for this semester, what I'm doing differently is really sitting down with each student to make sure that if they have any questions about what is happening in the world or this, or this, that they feel comfortable enough to ask, because I believe education and knowledge is the best tool that you can give anybody. So I've been kind of using George and Breonna Taylor's story as kind of like the framework of how minorities are seen and how it's kind of exactly like this in like the streets, like outside, how it is in the corporate world. There's not a difference. The only difference is just, coding, and I try to help my students understand that you're going to be if you're going to be in a certain situation or at a certain company, you need to be able to know and communicate with them what your values are. And if they're not in those boxes of your values, then you shouldn't even be working for them. And that's what a lot of students are having a hard time with, especially during this time with Corona and social justice and stuff. It's like, oh, I just need to get a job. I just need to be able to stay settled. And yeah, that it has that anxiety. However, you're going to put yourself in a really bad position where you might get a lot of money,
Mm.
but you're not going to be able to do what you want to do with your life. It's that balance. Exactly. And that's something that I had to learn very hard,
Mm.
since I was consulting, very, very young. And I've had
Yeah.
all different opportunities and these proposals doing this, and this. And, it wasn't until, I turned 20, 21 where I was actually like, wow, you know, I can say no to this person. I can say no. It doesn't matter really about the money. It's like, how's that going to make me look and how's that going to make me feel inside? So, yeah. My goal when, having this course at, at SF State, like the reason why I wanted to go to SF State because it's just, there's no issues within, like, I don't know how to explain it. Just coming from Central Valley to here, it's just very different. And there's a lot more opportunity and a lot more open for change. So I definitely would love to see my class, like personal branding and communication, something like that, as a, you know, requirement for GE. I think that that's something that would benefit every single person, no matter what industry that they're in. You still need to be branded, with yourself. So I would definitely say I would want to see that, impact freshmen's lives, and where they can start at a good place and then, figure out what they actually want to do by the time they're a senior and know who they are. Um, and I hope it just sparks, different types of uh, discussions about why we need, this type of class in, our schools today and universities.